And you're welcome. It's time for our very first big story for today, and this time it's the political climate in Edo State that has once again become under intense scrutiny following the controversial verdict of the Edo State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal. But it's not just the verdict that has tongues wagging. A leaked version of the judgment made its way online hours before the official ruling, sparking widespread outrage, allegations of judicial compromise, and a fresh wave of political finger-pointing between the All Progressives Congress, APC, and the People's Democratic Party, PDP. The tribunal ultimately ruled in favor of Senator Monday Okpebholo of the APC, annulling the election of PDP's Asue Ighodalo, but the fallout is far from over.
Now, with questions swirling around the integrity of the judiciary, the role of digital leaks, and the next steps from both camps, Edo's political future hangs in the balance. We'll be getting perspectives this morning from key media aides on both sides of the political side, and our correspondent, who will also be joining us to give us his recount of things that happened.
All right. And joining us live here in the news, or rather joining us live, we have Anthony Ighodalo. He is a special advisor on media to the PDP's candidate, Asue Ighodalo. Also joining us is Godswill Inegbe. He's a special advisor to Governor Monday Okpebholo on media and publicity. And also joining us as well, who's been covering the tribunal proceedings from day one, is our very own Joshua Emarai, who joins us live from the capital, Abuja. Good morning to you, gentlemen, and thank you so much for joining us.
Very much for having me.
Good morning. Let's just get started, shall we? And let me start with you, Mr. Anthony Ighodalo. Your principal's immediate reaction. What was your principal's immediate reaction to the tribunal's verdict?
Well, thank you very much for having me once again. You know, we live in a society where we must expect justice, but where we don't get it, we must be bold enough to express our discontent. But my principal is a lawyer with over 40 years experience, has built one of the top law firms in Nigeria. So he's a disciple in the temple of justice and will remain faithful, or have his faith still enshrined in the practice of law, and that one can always get justice, even if at the first level you find some travesty has occurred, and which is what has happened at the Edo Tribunal, led by Justice Bochi and two others. We are gravely disappointed in their judgment, to say the least, because we expected them to do justice to our petition. But what we have found is that they have, like my chairman at the state level, Edo PDP chairman, Tony Asbimi, said, they have become and made themselves the fourth respondents in this issue. Justice Bochi, while reading and delivering his judgment, introduced a case that was neither introduced by either of the parties, making himself a willful Father Christmas, introducing the case of Tanko, which has no bearing on this particular case, but he needed something, he needed a ground to introduce the technicality of not delving into the matter that was substantially before him with enough credible evidence. When I'm talking about evidence, we're talking about CTCs of the Beaver, CTCs of the IREV, CTCs from EC8As, CTCs from EC25B, which were all in contention. And you must realize that our petition never at any point pointed to any misdemeanor at the polling units. Our petition was solely hinged on non-compliance with the Electoral Act. The Electoral Act, in certain sections, it implies a certain strict compliance and mandatory performance of certain actions. And these actions are put in there to forestall any misdemeanor at election venues, such as the PUs. So, for instance, we are contending that going by Section 72(2) of the Electoral Act, every form EC 825B must be priorly filled at the RAC Center. The RAC Center is the resident area center, and the major people at the RAC Center are the SPOs and the POs, that is presiding officer and the presiding, and these are INEC staff. It mandates them to record the serial number of sensitive materials. Now, Section 57, I think, of the Electoral Act is 54. It's very specific as to the outcome if this prior recording is not done. It says you must cancel the result of these polling units if the serial numbers are not prior recorded. The judges did not even get into the meat of the matter, using a technicality and saying that evidence was dumped. There was no evidence that was dumped on them. This evidence were introduced through the bar, and you admitted them.
All right.
The only thing we're seeing now is that these judges did not delve into the meat of the matter. Instead, they found a technicality, introduced a technicality from nowhere, and did not do justice to the case before them. And then there's also another specific issue of non-proper collation of results.
Just a second, Mr. Ihilabo.
Now we're going to get into that technicality that you discussed. We're also going to get into the evidence that was presented, and also your defendants, or rather, should I say, your witnesses as well. But let me come to Mr. Inegbe. First of all, let me say congratulations on the verdict on your end. But with the controversy surrounding, the leak of that judicial paper that we saw online just 24 hours before the official ruling, do you worry that this taints your camp's legal victory? And if you have any response to Mr. Ihilabo's claims.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm not here to debate any inanities with anybody here, because of, if you recall, when I was invited, I do say that I'm with the government in Edo Central, and we have serious engagement this morning. And in the next few 30 minutes, I'm expected to join the governor to attend the very important function this morning. So I want to maximize the few time that I will be able to spend on this program before I actually leave, because a lot of people are waiting for my directives. And as I said before, I'm not here to debate any issue with my brother from the opposition, but I'm just here to state the fact. The fact remains that the mandate that was given to Senator Okpebholo, by the grace of God, popularly known in Edo State today as Akpakurescu, because of his intervention in every sector in Edo State, in just less than 43 days in office. The mandate was affirmed by the Edo State Election Petition Tribunal. I was in that court on that day when the judgment was given, and if you guys were there, you will see how the judges of the tribunal took our time to do justice to the petitions, not just from the PDP, but from other opposition parties that filed petition against the governor. The mandate of the governor, based on the reaction of Edo people, when the tribunal affirmed his mandate, I wish you guys would have been in Edo State to see how Edo people, how they rejoiced over the judgments. Even when the governor, after the judgment, when he arrived in Benin City, the capital city, at the airport, you can see the mammoth crowd that waited for the governor. And it took us 2 to 3 hours to be able to leave the airport environment, even going through the airport road leading to the popular ring road and to the upper palace in Benin. Usually, a place that could have used to 5 minutes to 10 minutes to drive to, it took us hours. Because Edo people, they came out en masse across the state. They blocked all the streets, blocked the road, celebrating the profound judgment that was given in favor of the governor. It's a testament to the fact that the governor was the one that the Edo people voted for. It is a testament to the fact, to the popularity of this governor. Is a demonstration to the fact that the people of Edo, they do really voted for this governor, and they are happy with what the governor is doing. And when this judgment came in favor to affirm the declaration of this governor by the INEC, The entire Edo people celebrated it
Now,
in a
Mr.
manner
Enegbe,
they've not seen in this
Mr.
state
Enegbe,
before.
yes, we were in Edo State. In fact, we had our correspondent covering, even if he was in Abuja. So we're going to be bringing Joseph Imurai in very soon to give us an idea of what the courtroom, at least, was like when this judgment was made. However, I was curious as to know exactly how you feel, noting that the APC have told that the judgment was actually influenced. What's your thought on this one?
Well, when you know, in our climb, especially in this country, when people lose or rather lost in any competition, they find it difficult to accept defeat. We don't expect the opposition party, especially the PDP now, because it wasn't not only PDP that actually had a petition in that tribunal. There are other political parties that also had a petition that was dismissed, but the other party has accepted the judgment in good faith. But as usual of PDP, because they were voted out of office, and two people rejected rejected PDP and rejected their candidates. So we don't expect them to accept the judgment. Of course, they must come with conspiracy theories. We expect that. As I said before, it's typical in this climb, in the world, in our politics in this country. It's something that is common with it. So we are not really really moved by that. That's why I just told you that look at the reactions of the people, because it's the people that matters here, not individual who lost elections that are feel bittered. The people were excited. The people of Edo State are excited. As we speak right now, we're in Edo Central. When the governor came into Edo Central yesterday, it was a triumphant entry of a hero. You can see the crowds. Today, this morning, the people are hosting the governor for the same victory reception all over the states.
All right, Mr. Enegbe.
So what else do you want to show as an evidence that the judgment was the judgment in favor of the people, and the people are happy about it?
All right, Mr. Enegbe. My question was actually the PDP. Apologies there, I got that mixed up. But Judith, you were going to ask
I was going to come to
Sorry,
Joshua.
can I
Just a
respond?
second. Let me come to Joshua Marai, because that would lead me to my next question for you, Mr. Ilobo. And Joshua, you were in the courtroom, and you have been following the petition, election petition, when he was moved to Abuja from Edo State. And you also have done a report on the mixed reaction that have trailed this verdict. What's your take on the evidence, the technicalities, and also what was the mood like in that room?
I will start with the mood in that room. That particular day, the mood was tense. Different parties were expectant of a ruling that was going to favor their camp. But concerning the evidence and the exhibit so far, I have nothing to say, because only the lawyers of both parties can put their cases to court. The judges, in their magnanimity and wisdom, has them that particular exhibit and evidence not enough for them to prove their case. So I will leave that to the judge. But concerning the atmosphere there, it was tense. You could see it in the faces of party faithfuls that they are expectant of something to favor them. But unfortunately for the PDP, it was not in their favor. And though pre-trial motions were actually read out before the Justice Refuting read his particular judgment on the petition by the PDP, pre-trial motions were read out. And I can tell you for sure that the PDP swayed most of the motions into their favor. And most of the exhibit that was presented to them was admitted as evidence, yes. But unfortunately, the ruling was not in favor of them. This is, we know this is Nigeria, and Nigeria is one place that has a kind of political intrigue to all these kind of cases. They are even saying from the street that it's very, very difficult to unseat an incumbent. I don't know how true that is, but we'll just be looking at the appeal to see what it has for us.
All right. Mr. Ilobo, giving the tense reaction, or rather the tense mood that was in the courtroom there as the verdict was being announced, but also the comments of a triumphant welcome of a hero and the celebrations by the Edo people. Your take, your response.
Well, I've been saying that, but if you gauge the mood of Edo people, you can tell who really won that election and the disappointment from the judgment. Before that, I had heard that they had mobilized all their caretaker chairmen to mobilize people to form some sort of celebratory mood. I assure you, Asue Ighodalo, the day he gets judgment, hopefully at appeal court, will not need to mobilize anybody. You will see it, you will feel it. You will feel the real passion of people because people know who they wanted. People know who they voted for. Have you seen the comments from the U.S. mission in Nigeria? Have you seen the number of civil society organizations that have spoken up against the elections? TAP Initiative has gone to ICPC regarding the alleged forgeries that happened during the election. Listen, the case we presented before the tribunal rests on two legs. One, substantial non-compliance by INEC with the Electoral Act, which mandates you through its processes of checks and balance that you must fill forms prior to elections. That was not done. And we presented CTCs of this. INEC did not refute any of the CTCs we presented to the courts. The second leg was in the wrong collation. Now, the courts were asking us to provide polling unit agents to testify. We did not contend that anything was wrong at the polling units. Look, the documents that were admitted, according to your reporter just now, were admitted as evidence into court, included certified true copies of the beavers from EC8As, the copies that were given to our agents. The only variance you see was the collation result by INEC, which is completely different. So you will see a result that from the IRF CTC that is 41. You will see that it tallies with the agent copy given by INEC at the polling unit. But what you will see at the recorded collation figure will be 541. And these are the things that we contended with. You cannot be celebrating a Pyrrhic victory, a victory that you stole. And everybody knows that you stole. Go on IRF today. Go on, it's still there, it's not been taken down. Go on the INEC's website, on the IRF.
So, Mr. Ihilabo, what next for the PDP? Mr. Ihilabo, what next for the PDP now that you're confirming that these processes weren't carried out in a proper fashion? What's the next step for the PDP? Can you confirm what they're going to do next before I ask my next question?
So, of course, we're headed to the appeal court. Like I said, we may be disappointed with the actions of Justice Pochi and his merry fourth respondents. Okay. But we still have absolute faith.
All right, so
that there are still a few good men in the judiciary and we can get judgment.
If the PDP is going to the appeal court, then the question is what further evidence will be brought up that would substantiate your claim?
There's no need for further evidence.
And then let's note, Mr. Ihilabo, just a second, I'm very sorry, but just a second. And then what about the effect on the Edo people? What about the effect on the governance in Edo State? We've seen this play out in other states in Nigeria and what it ended up in. Is the PDP willing to risk this up until that level again?
Well, you can see what governance is. We almost had a national issue due to them dropping the ball in terms of security management. Today, we are still trying to reconcile with our brothers in the north for the unjustified killing of 16 people, which would never have happened under a responsible government. But we know that there have been prior cases that were not resolved at tribunal level. Governor Doyejiri got his mandate at the Supreme Court. Same thing with the governor of Zamfara State. Same thing with even the governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodimma. So we're very hopeful that these lapses that we've seen, especially with the failure of the judges to particularly look at the evidence. I'm sure my brother here, while he was speaking, spoke very vaguely and very bogusly. I will never see anybody that will speak and challenge the kind of evidence that we have put before the courts. Let them, I would like to engage them, say, okay, we presented evidence, we presented our polling unit, but the courts refused to even look at the evidence because they knew that the minute that they went into the substance, into the evidence that we presented witnesses. Let me give you an instance. For instance, when we're talking about non-collation, right? Because like I said, there are two prongs of this case. The non-collation of results. Ighodalo Ward 2 has 77 polling units. out of which INEC excluded 76 polling units. We brought the collation agents, we brought the CTCs to ask INEC, and INEC did not even have a reason. Verify. They said no, there was Beaver's bypass, but they did not submit to the court any evidence, did not present anything to controvert what we had said.
Right.
So how then do you think we've gotten justice when this was not even considered by the judges?
Yeah, Mr. Inable, at the risk of making a case for Mr. Inegbe, he has said that he is not going to engage in any debate. That he's only here for a short period of time to speak on. We'll most likely have a conversation with another representative of APC to bring their own facts to the table. But as we close this conversation, because I know everyone's pressed for time, you got to be with your daughter, and of course, Mr. Inebo has to continue with the sake of governance for the people of Edo. Let me ask Joshua. Joshua, you spoke to witnesses in your earlier report that you filed during the week. Regarding, this verdict and all of the evidences that was provided by the PDP. What next? Just speaking to the witnesses and from the mood, what do you think will play out in our political scene? Go.
Well, one thing I must say before I answer to that is that this is healthy for opposition in the Nigerian political scene. I understand that parties would still be aggrieved concerning that particular rule, but it is a sign that the Nigerian party system and the Nigerian political scene is seeing a perfectly healthy opposition. But speaking of the next level in the entire imbroglio, we are seeing them approach the appeal court. And for that, they have to present the evidence and as much claims they can present and so on. But one thing must stick. The Justice Mifepuchi judgment earlier said that you can't bring people who were not makers of those documents testify on those documents. What it means that you have to bring the presiding officer in this ward. If there was irregularity in the ward, you bring the presiding officer of the ward. If there is irregularity in the unit, you bring such from the unit, and even polling unit agents. Now, if that stance should stand, when they appeal this case, now the question is, will the appeal court still stand on this particular verdict that you have to bring the makers of those documents to testify in court? That is one question we're hoping to answer during the case of this appeal.
Right. And lastly to you, Mr. Inegbe, just to wrap up.
Quickly, I wanted just to quickly say one or two things to my brother, from a kind of respond. As I said before, when I say I don't want to engage in any debate, what I actually meant is that I don't see the excess of trying to be arguing with my brother regarding the case, their own case, which according to the judges, because as I said before, I was in that court the day the judgment was given, according to the judges, the case that they failed to prove. If you were there, you will see the tone, how the judges chastise the counsels or the legal team of the PDP for failing to do their job. And what was that? During the day, during the judgment, the judges do even ask that, how could the PDP legal team don't document on the judges without not be able to even explain or prove what is inside the documents? In the same vein, the same judges, lambasted the legal team of the PDP that they came to dump the modal system that we use for voting. They dump it on the tribunal without not even opening it for the tribunal to know what is inside there. That was their responsibility. You see, the problem with Edo PDP and the remaining followers there, they are good in promoting lies and falsehood. They are good in selling propagandas. When in reality, they know the truth and they are unable to accept the truth to themselves. Of course, it's a common knowledge in the law. He who alleges must prove. Now, the judges have said that you are unable to prove to us what you are claiming. You understand? For instance, everybody understand that our electoral process, when election is conducted, election are usually done at the polling units. That's where the result emanates from. Before it transmitted to the collation center.
Right.
Now, you are proving that this election, you guys, the PDP, according to them, they said that they won it. And which means if you say you have won this election, it should start from the units level. from the witnesses they brought to the tribunal, none of the witnesses were able to testify that what they are even, what they brought them to come and testify in the court, that they were at the unit level to see. All of them agreed that they were not there. Now the tribunal, the judges, they were dumbfounded. They don't really understand.
We seem to have lost Mr. Inigbe there. This is where we close the curtains for this discussion.
Can I just quickly respond, please?
No, unfortunately...
I really need to respond because there's a section of the Electoral Act.
30 seconds, please. 30 seconds.
Section 320 says that you do not need to call oral evidence when you have presented evidence that on the face of it shows substantial non-compliance. We presented CTCs, and again, to my brother, we are not contesting or contending results from the polling units. We are contending where the fraud happened, which is at the collation center, wrong collations, and we presented witnesses, credible witnesses. We presented the polling agent of Ikobaka. What happened to that? What was he saying that the evidence was dropped on them? Are the judges unaware of Section 372? And besides, they knew about 372. That's why the judges became the fourth respondents to introduce a case that was not pleaded by any of the parties. That is why they introduced Kanko, just to give them the leverage to be able to say, no, you presented evidence without. That's not the case here. Our case is very straightforward. In about 300 or so polling units, you failed to collate properly the results. And that's all we are going to the appeal court to say. They didn't look at the substance of the matter.
Gentlemen, I hate that we have to cut this conversation short, but we do have to go. We want to say thank you so much for taking out the time to come on today and have this discussion. And we also want to extend a right of reply to the APC and, of course, the PDP to come out another time to discuss this, if and when the PDP decides to take this to the Court of Appeal. But once again, thank you, gentlemen. And thank you to Joshua Marayu for all your hard work following this the tribunal matter. Thanks again.